this is Julie with Beadaholique, and in this video I want to show you how to make the SuperDuo Blooms bracelet, which is the exclusive kit by Beadaholique. So it comes in a variety of colors. Really quickly, I'm just going to show you them. So we've got pretty blues, purples, a black, white, and silver, a nice resort summery one, which is turquoise, white, and gold, this really yummy bronze and pink one, and then I love this one too, which is nice muted tones. And then you can see how they taper at the ends and come to an end point with a magnetic clasp. Now when you purchase a kit from Beadaholique, you're going to get everything you need to make the bracelet. So for these particular kits, that's going to be these items here. You're going to get seed beads, check glass fire polish beads, 2 colors of SuperDuos. The one we're going to be making here, it's the purple one. You're going to get your beading needles, and you're also going to get your thread, fire line for this project, and a clasp. And then you're also going to get these really detailed instructions as well, so you don't necessarily have to refer back to this video to put your kit together, or if you're giving it as a gift. The only tool you're going to need is a pair of scissors. So let's begin. We're going to start to make this bracelet. So I'm going to take a moment here and thread my needle with about 4 feet to 5 feet of thread, just however much you're comfortable with. You are going to be adding more thread as you go, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So I've placed a bead stopper on my end, and I left a tail of about 12 inches. I cut about 6 feet to work with. Really do work with whatever you're comfortable with, because you are going to have to add more. So to begin this, you're going to pick up one of the SuperDuos, and it can be either color. You're going to be checkerboarding your colors like you see here. So whichever color you want to start with is fine. So I'm going to start with the deep purple. So I'm going to pick it up, and these SuperDuos do have 2 holes, so you're just going to go through one of the holes. And then a seed bead, a round bead, a seed bead, another SuperDuo, another seed bead, round bead, seed bead, SuperDuo, and then repeat. So seed bead, round bead, seed bead, and another SuperDuo. So we've got 4 SuperDuos right now. And then we're going to add a seed bead, a round bead, and a seed bead. And now we're going to slide those down to our stopper bead, and we're going to go back through the first SuperDuo we strung on, going through that top hole. So it's the same hole that we originally went through, and just pull it, and so you made a nice little circle. Now you're going to take your needle, you're going to go back through the second hole of that same SuperDuo that you just exited. It's really fun to work with 2-hole beads. It really increases the design possibilities. So now what we're going to do is we want to add a little seed bead between each of the SuperDuos. So we're just going to pick up a seed bead and go through the next SuperDuo, and then we're going to go through its second hole as well. And I'll try to do this as much as I can on the actual cloth here, so hopefully it'll be a little easier for you to see what's happening. So another seed bead. Went through that second hole of that SuperDuo, and then we're going to go through and add another seed bead and go through the second hole of the SuperDuo. And what these seed beads are doing is they're pulling all the SuperDuos to the center, so it's making a really nice cluster. Okay, so one more seed bead to complete our round, and now you are exiting the original SuperDuo you started from. So we have got a little cluster. Now we need to jump up to the outside edge again. So we're just, you see where our thread is exiting. Let me try to make that clear. So we're in the middle here. And now we need to jump up to that second hole again of that same SuperDuo, and we want to go through the seed bead next to it. And then we also want to go through the round bead next to that seed bead. So this is where we're at. Now we are ready to make our second cluster, and we already have the round bead, which is going to be part of our second cluster. So we need to add a seed bead, and now we need to use our second color of SuperDuo. So we're going to use the lighter purple in this instance. And then we're going to add a seed bead, a round bead, a seed bead, another purple, the light purple again, seed bead, round bead, seed bead, SuperDuo, seed bead, round bead, seed bead, oops, try and keep these all on my needle so you can see the pattern. And then we need another SuperDuo. So we've got our 4 SuperDuos. And because we want to go through this round again, we just need to add one more seed bead. So you're going to pull that down. And you're going to loop around and go back through your round bead. In this case, you also want to go through that seed bead and you want to go through that SuperDuo again. And pull. So we've just done the outer edge of this cluster. And now to get to the center, we need to go through the second hole of that SuperDuo that we just exited. And then add a seed bead. And then grab the second hole of the SuperDuo next to it. And just got a little bit of a tangle here. Just work it out with your needle if that happens. That's why I don't want you trying to do this whole project with just one length of thread. I did attempt it and I ended up with a lot of knots and it was pretty frustrating. So it is easier if you just work with a more comfortable length of thread and then just add more as you go. It's not hard to add thread in this pattern. Okay, so I'm just working my way around, adding a seed bead between those second holes of the SuperDuos, which are already attached. And then we are back to the original SuperDuo we started from. And we've got 2 clusters. So we went through that SuperDuo and we're on the inside hole, so now we need to jump out to the outer edge. So we're just going to make a little thread bridge on the side of the SuperDuo. We're going to jump up to that second hole. And you'll notice I also went through the seed bead. So here is where my thread is, and I'm building a train of these clusters. So I need to work my needle to this end round bead. So all you're going to do is you're just going to retrace your thread path until you get to the end round bead. And now you're just going to repeat the process you did before. So I'm going to do one more cluster here with you so you get the hang of it. And then I'm going to complete my train of clusters off camera to save a little time here. And for this particular bracelet, which is going to be 7.5 inches long, I want a total of 16 of these clusters. So let me just do one more on camera because your needle does keep shifting directions, but you'll get the hang of it. And it really is quite easy once you've done a few. So seed bead, SuperDuo, seed bead, round bead, seed bead, SuperDuo, seed bead, round bead, seed bead, SuperDuo, seed bead, round bead, seed bead, SuperDuo. I've got my 4 and you notice I'm using the dark purple again so we get that nice checkerboard look. Okay, and now we just go through that round bead. And pull. And then go through the seed bead and the SuperDuo. So that's the outer edge. Then go through the second hole of the SuperDuo and pull. And now we can do the interior. So seed bead, SuperDuo. And those nice seed beads pull the SuperDuos to the center to create a really pretty, I think it looks like a flower design. But it's a nice little beaded cluster. And now we're back through the original SuperDuo that we started with again. And now we just need to jump up to the outer edge by going through its second hole. And so wherever your thread is, you need to work your way to that round bead on the end, so you have a good starting point for the next cluster. All right, so I am ready to just continue on, and I will make a total of 16 of these before I jump up to the second row. I finished my 16 clusters and I'm exiting my SuperDuo. Now at this point you can actually make a decision if you just want to stop here and have it be a narrow bracelet. So this is what it would look like narrow. And then here's the comparison for the double row. So I think both are really a pretty option. If you do want to end it now, you would just work your thread back to this end round bead. You would pick up 2 seed beads, 1/2 of your clasp via the little loop, 2 more seed beads, and then just loop your thread back into that round bead, and then weave your tail in and tie some knots. So it's actually quite easy to do. I'm not going to show you that method though right here on camera because I really do want to focus on this kit, but just know that that is an option. So to create your second row, instead of working your way to an end bead, you want to work your way to the nearest side bead. So I'm just going to take my needle and go through the seed bead and the round bead. So here we are, and you'll notice I'm actually flipping my beadwork right here because for me it's just a little easier to work up top. So here our thread is exiting, and now we need to pick up another seed bead and then a different color of SuperDuos, so it checkerboards for us, and then a seed bead and a round, a seed bead, a SuperDuo, seed bead, round, seed bead, SuperDuo, and then seed bead, round, seed bead, SuperDuo, and then a seed bead. So we've got our 4 SuperDuos on there, and we've got our seed bead on either end, and we're going to go back through that round bead. And you know what, I might just have to pick this up. I was hoping to be able to show it to you laying flat, but it's a little easier if we just pick it up. Okay, so there's the start of our first cluster of our second row. So now we're just going to follow the same pattern we've been doing, where we work our way to our SuperDuo, and then we go through its second hole. And now we need to pick up seed beads for the interior. So seed bead, second hole of the next SuperDuo, seed bead, second hole, and you want to make sure your tension is good. You can just pull it tighter if you need to. And then seed bead, second hole, and another seed bead. Now I notice I have this little gap right here. So what I'm going to do to fix that, I'm going to pick it up. There's that little thread bridge on the other side. I'm just going to pull that. And that's going to help to cinch up those beads. And now I'm just going to pull my thread. And now that gap has been closed. Let's see, we are exiting the SuperDuo, so that's right where we want to be. Okay, so we're needing to work our way back to the outer edge. So we're going to jump up to the first hole of that SuperDuo. And now what we need to do is position our thread. So here's how we're looking. So what cluster we want to do next is going to be positioned right here. So we're going to need to work our thread all the way around to this bead. And so to do that, just go through your existing beads. Until you're exiting that interior round bead. So if you look at your pattern right here, you'll notice that you not only have one of the rounds of this second cluster, you also have another round right here. So you have to look and see what it is that you need to get to that second round. And in this case, it's going to be a seed bead, a SuperDuo, and another seed bead. And so now we're just going to go over to that next round, like so. And now we need to work our way back around here. So to complete this side of our cluster, we need a seed bead, a SuperDuo, a seed bead, a round bead, a seed bead, a SuperDuo, seed bead, round bead, seed bead, SuperDuo. So now we've got 3 SuperDuos and 1 right here, so that makes 4. And we need 1 more seed bead. Pull those guys down. And now go through this round bead right here. And then in this case, you want to go through the seed bead next to it and the SuperDuo. And pull. And now we need to do the interior seed beads. I'm going to pick it up. So to be able to get to that interior section, we need to go through the second hole of the SuperDuo that we just exited. So this pattern really is a lot of your thread constantly changing directions. It might seem a little bit challenging to begin with, but you really will get the hang of it, and it'll just start to feel very natural after you do a couple clusters. Again, watch your tension. Make sure your beads are nice and tight. Just adding those interior seed beads. Got 1 more. Okay, so now we've finished that cluster, and we're going to jump up to that outer hole of that SuperDuo. We're going to go through the seed bead next to it. And again, we need to make our way to this bead here. So we're going to go through all the beads along the outer edge. Until we get there. Now, if you'll remember, on the last cluster you did, your thread was pointing this way. Well, now you're going up this way first. So you're going to need a seed bead, a SuperDuo, and pay close attention to your colors to make sure you checkerboard. Unless, of course, you don't want a checkerboard, you can do whatever you like. So I'm just picking up the beads I need to make this cluster. Oops, forgot a seed bead. For this side, I'm going to need 3 SuperDuos total. So I've got my 3 SuperDuos on there with the round beads and the seed beads between them. And now I'm going to go through this round bead. And now I need 1 more SuperDuo. And of course, SuperDuos are always bracketed in this pattern by seed beads. So I picked up a SuperDuo. I picked up a seed bead, a SuperDuo, and a seed bead. And now I'm going to go through this round and the seed bead and the SuperDuo next to it. And we've just completed the outside of that cluster. And now to do the inside, we go through that second hole of the SuperDuo. And then a seed bead to go ahead and pull all those SuperDuos to the center. All right, we finished that cluster. So you're going to jump up to the outside edge again by going through the second hole of the SuperDuo and work your beads around. And you'll notice on this next one, we're back to having our thread positioned here. So you'll just follow the step that you did here. And that's all in the instructions. So you'll be able to see the thread paths, but it will just become second nature. So this is a really good time to show you how to add a thread because I am almost out. So I'm going to take my needle off of my thread, and I'm actually not tying a knot at this point. Now I've got my thread. I'm just going to grab another comfortable length, whatever that might be, because for the clasp, we're going to cut new lengths anyways. So I have a nice comfortable length. I'm going to put my needle on it. And I'm going to go back here because I want to retrace my steps so that my new thread is exiting exactly where my old thread is. So if I look at this visually, I can kind of trace a path here. So I'm going to go right here and just insert my needle. And pull. And in this case, I don't need to leave a very long tail because I'm going to start tying some knots right here. So I'm just going to slip my needle under a thread bridge, pull, and knot it. Go through another couple beads. And I'm going to repeat. Go through. And that is not going anywhere at this point. So I just tied a couple knots. And so just work your thread back to where you left off. If you want to tie another knot or two, you're more than welcome to. That is nice and secure, and I'm going to trim off this tail right now so I don't have to think about it. And then you would just tuck this tail away for a couple minutes and continue beading with your new thread and your new length. And then you would just go back after you've got some beads done, put your needle back on this thread, and then work it into the beadwork, which you're going to create, and tie a few knots as you go, and then just trim this thread. So it's not very hard to do, but it does make it a lot easier than trying to start with a ridiculously long length of thread. So you're just going to continue with this pattern until you reach the end, and then what we're going to do is we're going to tie off our thread and start a new thread, and then make this little tapered bit here and add the clasp. We finished our second row here, and you'll see that we're back at the end we started at. Here's our original stopper bead. We worked all the way down here for the first row, turned around, and came back to complete the second row. Now, because we have an even number of clusters here, our thread is exiting the end round bead in this direction, which is great. That's right where we want it. But you do have a lot of extra beads left over, and you can make this bracelet longer. If you end on an odd number of clusters, so this was 16, but let's say you did one more cluster and it was 17, your thread would actually be exiting this way. If that's the case, just tie off this thread and add a new thread. So here in the instructions, you can see it shows you how to do that just so that you're always covered. So you just put a little stopper bead right there and then continue on. But because I have enough length of thread right now and I'm exiting in the right direction, I can just continue. So to taper your end, you're going to need 1/2 of the magnetic clasp, and you're going to want to pick up 3 seed beads, a SuperDuo, and you want what would have been the next color, so the next cluster. So this is going to be the dark purple. Another seed bead, a round bead, another seed bead, then the light purple, and then 3 more seed beads. Okay, so you're going to slide those guys down, and now you're going to go all the way over to your first row and that end round bead and go through like so. So when you see this gets pulled down, this is what we've got. And now pick up your beadwork and you're going to add a seed bead. Now you're going to go through the second hole of your SuperDuo, and you pick up another seed bead. And now you're going to go through the second hole of the other SuperDuo. Gotta love it that these have 2 holes. It makes it really fun and easy to design with. One more seed bead, and now we're going to go back through that end round bead. All right, so at this point, we have a really nice taper, but we don't have the clasp. So to add the clasp, work your way back up through your seed beads here and the SuperDuo. You want to go all the way up and through that round bead at the end. And now you're going to pick up 2 seed beads. One half of your magnetic clasp, and it is going to stick to your needle, so just go ahead and slide it down. And 2 more seed beads. And now you're going to go back through that round bead. So we have just attached the clasp. Now, because you're going to be wearing this as a bracelet, and when you take it on and off, you'll get some wear. You're actually going to want to go back up through those 4 seed beads again. And it could be a little tricky with that magnetic clasp. You just have to bear with it. So we're just reinforcing that loop right there. Fireline is incredibly strong, but why not? Why not add a little extra security there? And now go back through the round bead again and pull. So we've just attached our clasp, and it kind of wiggles on top of those seed beads. And now we're going to want to work our way back down the other side. And then back through the round again. And at this point, you have just created that taper and added your clasp. So all you need to do now is go ahead and weave in your tail and tie some knots as you go, as I showed you earlier in the video how to do. It's the same process as if you were just adding a new thread, but what you can do here, I'll just show you real quick to make it easier so you don't have to rewind. You're just going to slip your thread under thread bridge, pull tight, go through a couple more beads, tie a couple more knots, and then work your thread in. Okay, I'm going to tie 1 more knot for good measure. 3 knots should definitely suffice. And then I'm just going to trim my tail. So then you would remove your bead stopper, do the same thing with that tail, and then over here on the other end, you would just start a new length of thread with your bead stopper going right here, your needle pointing out here, so your thread is exiting the right direction, and then follow the same pattern. And what you're going to end up with is this, where you have the finished bracelet that has 2 rows of clusters, and you've got the tapered ends on both sides. So now let me show you what this looks like on. And then also that nice tapering effect. I think it's a really pretty way of finishing off the bracelet. Let me put this back with the other colors so you can see the variety. I hope you enjoyed this video showing you how to make the SuperDuo Blooms bracelet. And all of these are available at Beadaholique.com.